I witnessed the readiness of a couple of people in my life. Their transition, their emotional readiness and their transition before it happened. Back in May, I was in Oregon. A friend of mine, I've known her family for about 23 years. I've known their cats and dogs. I used to take Freckles used to house sit for them. And I must have walked Freckles through all the streets of Sausalito during the mid-90s. She had to have Freckles put down in 2008. Freckles,
actually, she put him up.
Well, there you go. Put it up. Freckles had a cancerous tumor, I think, in 04 and 08. She had it put down. And a year later, after Freckles had her cancerous tumor, she had breast cancer. She acquired another dog, Daisy. She had to put Daisy down. And so last May, I picked a weekend to go see her. And that was the weekend she transitioned. I held her hand with two other people were there helping her in her transition. And she told me before she passed that she and her sister, she chose Oregon to go to move from California because of Oregon's right to die law. I don't know if you've seen HBO's How to Die in Oregon. It's a very poignant documentary. And but she decided not to do that. And in not doing that, a lot of drama occurred between her and her sister, worked out. I witnessed her fight for life the day before, and then she was more unconscious the last day, and she passed away. That, in contrast to a friend, a longtime friend of my cousin's, who she's known for 30 years, and she moved from San Francisco. She did a lot of social work. There is some kind of building or something named after her. She moved to Texas, and after all of her things were unloaded from the truck, she sat in the chair and she was gone. Big difference in transitions, big difference in emotional transitions. I'm trying to understand what to take from that. Of course, I would like to choose the latter part. The way she did it was beautiful, to sit in the chair and to just transition on out. But the other one was a lot more traumatic.
Well, the most significant thing that we want to remind you about is that the grid always fills in exactly right. In other words, and the grid filling in meaning the manifestation is always a perfect vibrational match to what's going on. So nothing ever goes wrong. It's easy to stand back from it and witness, as you have, two different experiences and to make your statement of what you prefer. And when you do that, you put something in the vortex. In other words, you put something very specific in the vortex. The only question is, will you be a vibrational match to what you put into the vortex, or will you let other thoughts or other experiences that you have or are observing cause you to create a grid that fills in other than the way you have more specifically defined it? Because when we talk about being the deliberate creator of your own experience, the question, the balking that people often have with that is, Abraham, I cannot be the creator of my experience because my experience is turning out in ways that I would not choose for myself. Therefore, I do not believe that I'm the creator of my experience. And we say, we're not saying that you're the conscious, deliberate creator of your experience, but you are the creator of your experience because you are offering a vibration that is equaling the way your grid fills in every single time. We had a conversation just a little bit ago where we ask, are you assuming that negative emotion is a bad thing? because we don't want you to assume that negative emotion is a bad thing, or that someone living something other than what you would choose is a bad thing, or even you living something other than what you would choose is a bad thing, because ultimately you will reemerge into the pure positive energy of that which is you. And there are a whole lot of people in a whole lot of ways demonstrating their unwillingness to allow their grid to fill in the way they choose it. And so why should it be any different at the end of their physical experience than the way they've practiced it all the way along? Okay. It was very interesting as we wanted to jump in, and it is almost as effective speaking it to you now as if we had jumped in as the story was unfolding. But in the sort of, first we want to say that Freckles and Daisy, neither one would have required an intervention to put them down, as you described, had they been less influenced by someone up close to them. Because animals, domestic animals, often pick up the characteristics of those who surround them. But animals, for the most part, and especially those who are in the wild and not affected so much by the vibration of humans, they make their transition so easily. It's just the next logical step, and they don't have to have a big negative experience that causes them to begin asking for the relief of the absence of something either. In other words, they like to be in their prime, and they like to feel the fullness of who they are, and as long as they are an integral part of what they were born to do, they'll hang around, but they don't stay for the service of others ever. In other words, they selfishly reemerge when reemerging is the path of least resistance, and it doesn't take much resistance. And so when an animal has an illness and is feeling discomfort or diminishment of their experience, the natural thing for them is just to release, because their transition back into another physical body is so speedy. In other words, there's just no reason for them to hang around unless there is someone who is physically focused, some human friend who is intimately interested in them, who is holding them as their object of attention in a very strong way, who has made them an important part of their creative experience, and so then they will compliantly co-create past their natural selfish reemergence into non-physical. And so now we gave you that explanation specifically because we want to awaken within you something, to emphasize within you something that you're already completely aware of. Can you feel the difference, and it's easier to hear when we speak about the animals? Can you hear how the animal in the wild would be more selfish because he's considering fewer perspectives than a domesticated animal? That the domesticated animal is factoring in more of what someone else wants than is actually to their personal singular advantage.
You're saying that our domestic friends are more selfish than we take them for. In fact, the mainstream things that they're doing a very noble service of coming in and being our partners.
We're saying that the animals in the wild allow themselves to be more naturally selfish than the domesticated ones.
Right.
And the domesticated animals let what you want affect them, and so they don't always or often have the smooth transition that they would otherwise. Now let's talk about humans, because there are humans who are infinitely more selfish and those who are serving others. So Esther asked that question because Jerry and Esther have been expressing the sentiment, happy, healthy, happy, healthy, happy, healthy, dead. The idea of just sitting in a chair and going to sleep was just the most. And so when Jerry's transition was different from that, Esther wanted to know what's up with that. In other words, that wasn't happy, healthy, happy, healthy, happy, healthy, dead. There was an interim where there was concern and struggle and fighting for life, fighting for physical life, until the dominant intention, in other words, it could have been simpler and easier, but he allowed himself to be influenced by Esther. You follow? She didn't want to let him go. Still doesn't. Did. But it makes it harder when someone says, you're not the boss of you. Esther said that, you're not the boss of you. Remember, you're important to me, therefore, let's get this turned around. Never mind your source calling. Never mind who you really are. Never mind what's in your vortex. Never mind what you were born to be. Never mind that you can continue to do the work from non-physical. Never mind any of that. You should, and of course, ultimately, the stronger intentions and desire. But this is a conversation worth having, isn't it? In other words, Esther sort of guilted him out. What? You're taking off? No. You said you'd live to be 120. We had an agreement. So what we're really talking about is it's not an easy thing to be selfish in the way we want you to be as you're integrated with others that you care about. It's hard to be a co-creator in physical form without your intentions bleeding over into the experience of another, you see. But that's really what it's about. And it's all just fine. In other words, what a wonderful understanding to come out of that. In other words, Esther's completely resolved with that. She gets it completely as she acknowledges the fullness of it. But that is the specific and accurate and full explanation of that.
Yes.
And that death do us part is crap. Esther's always shocked when she hears that word back on the recording, but it's the word that best simply describes the offness of, in other words, there is no parting. There is no parting.